Hello, darling. I was thinking some stuff, and it seemed worth sharing. I was thinking about the subjective nature of human experience, and how wonderful it is, and how much happiness it can bring. What I mean by that is the way in which you and I can spend an afternoon together, and stay right next to each other the whole time, and your experience of that afternoon and mine will often be completely different. I don't mean our memories will be different, although that is also true. I mean our experience in the present moment. Things happen, and we both see and feel those identical things happening, but each of us experiences those moments in our own subjective way. There are loads of reasons why this is true, or rather there are loads of different models that we can use to explain it. We might say that each of our past histories and backgrounds are quite different, and how we experience the present moment is affected by that. If a dog runs past us, and I'm seeing a dog for the very first time, and you've seen hundreds of dogs before, then that's going to shape each of our perceptions of that encounter. I might be blown away by seeing a dog for the first time, and you might barely even notice it. On the other hand, you might have trauma from previous dog encounters and might react far more strongly than I did. So, past history with dogs can leave us with different reactions to the same event. But so can, for example, our emotional mood at the time. If I lost my job yesterday and you won the lottery yesterday, then that might also affect our perceptions of that same afternoon. I'm worrying about next month's money far more than I usually do, which leaves me preoccupied and depressed. You're worrying about next month's money far less than you normally do, which might leave you much more able than I am to enjoy a walk through the park and appreciate the flowers and the sunshine and the cool breeze. I'm walking there right beside you, but my lived experience of that moment is quite different from yours. Coming to terms with the fact that other people have different subjective experiences of the world than we do is something that we all go through, and it's a part of the human condition that can leave us with a profound sense of alienation. When I see people discussing this, it is often as a problem, as something that they struggle with, or that makes them feel isolated and lonely. It's wrapped up with a feeling of unease about how different we are from other people, and it can leave us feeling that we can never trust or rely on people, even our friends. The idea that we are all living inside our own unique subjective universes means that we can never truly know another human being, or be known by one. So that's what I mean when I talk about the subjective nature of human experience. Before I explain what's good about it, I want to talk about a Tumblr post that I saw a few weeks ago. It said, "You're struggling to make the change because the old behaviour is still meeting a need. Instead of shaming yourself, identify the deeper need and allow it to exist. Then get curious about a new way to meet it." I was thinking about this and the whole model for human behaviour that it stems from, a model that says that everyone's behaviour can be explained by examining that person's needs and then recognising how the behaviour helps them meet that need. This is a bit like the pregnant woman who gets a craving for weird foodstuffs. Rather than a model that says that pregnancy makes women crazy and then they act in really random ways, I prefer to think of this in terms of pregnancy involving building a tiny person inside of you. And if your body doesn't have all the raw materials for this construction project, like iron or calcium, then it triggers a desperate need for foods that are rich in these, that you might not normally like that much. I find that when someone's behaviour makes little sense to me, it can help to recognise that this may be driven by needs that aren't obvious to me. That doesn't mean that they should get a free pass on behaviour that isn't acceptable, but it can provide some helpful context to allow things to move forward. When I think about how different an individual people's needs are, I'm generally thinking about emotional or psychological needs, rather than the basic physical needs for food and warmth and shelter and such like. We all share those, And I'm sure that there are also some emotional needs that most of us have in common. But differences in upbringing or key formative experiences can also leave us with some needs that not everybody shares. You might be someone who grew up in the country and finds it very calming to connect to nature and enjoy the changing of the seasons. You might find that your mood would be badly affected if you had to work all week in a room with no windows or natural light, bare of any hint of greenery, not even so much as a plastic pot plant. I, on the other hand, might be someone who really doesn't like the countryside at all. It's full of things that scratch me or sting me or trip me up or make me cough and sneeze. If we spent an afternoon together in the park, you might be enjoying it because it reminds you of the countryside you love. The warmth of the sun on your arms and the sound of the wind in the trees and the smell of the wildflowers might transport you back to 1,000 happy childhood memories. That would help you to meet your emotional and psychological needs. If I was in your head, on the other hand, then my needs would not be being met. I would not love the things that you are loving. I would not love that at all. But, happy day, I am not in your head. I am in my head, walking next to you. I do not see how similar the park is to the countryside. I see the opposite of that, how different it is. The tarmacked paths and manicured lawns don't scratch at me or try to trip me up. I barely even have mud on the bottom of my shoes, and I certainly don't have any on my trousers. There are benches to sit on, swings for the children, signposts to the bandstand. There's even a van selling overpriced ice creams. This is an entirely urban space. If I close my eyes and listen hard, I can even hear the rumble of traffic in between the birdsong. I'm having a perfectly lovely, perfectly urban time, and my needs are being met. And that's what I mean when I talk about how wonderful the subjective nature of human experience is and how much happiness it can bring. I understand why people can feel alienated by the idea that we can spend an afternoon side by side in the park and actually each be living in our own personal subjective universe in our heads, and you not actually experience the same afternoon that I do. I see why that seems lonely or isolating, but look at it a different way. You and I can spend a lovely afternoon walking in the park, and we can be happier doing that together than we would be on our own. And the fact that we each have our own subjective experience means that I am able to take what I require from that afternoon to meet my needs, and you are able to take what you require from that afternoon to meet your needs. And if those needs happen to be incompatible or mutually exclusive, then most of the time that's absolutely fine. I get the afternoon I need and you get the one that you do. And it's okay, really, that they're not the same afternoon. And they are each still a better afternoon for us having had each other's company while our own subjective personal needs were being met. Anyway, that's what I was thinking about. And it felt worth sharing. See you soon.